I'm Kayla Preston, 23, and literally last weekend, my rep as the family underdog? Yeah, it totally backfired. The computer I'd built from scratch, 3 years of savings, late nights, and every ounce of my freelance dreams, my parents sold it to fund my sister's influencer lifestyle. It blew up into a full-on family betrayal at our so-called cozy dinner. My mom, Darlene, straight up demanded I get over it. And when I clapped back, the room went dead silent. "You're so selfish, Kayla," she yelled, with my sister, Tinsley, smirking like she'd won the lottery. But here's the tea. Their shade didn't break me. It lit a spark. I'm not just pushing back, I'm about to flip the script and change everything. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, hit subscribe, and stay with me for the most satisfying comeback you'll ever hear. Looking back, it's almost unreal what I'd do once that fire got lit. It started with that dinner. But the real story's deeper. I've always been the odd one out. Tinsley, 19, was the golden child. Perfect curls, pageant smiles, and a TikTok following my parents treated like a royal decree. Me? I was the tech geek, hunched over circuit boards in my room, teaching myself to code while they fawned over her vlogs. That computer wasn't just hardware, it was my ticket out. I'd saved $3,000, scrounging from part-time gigs, skipping meals to afford the best GPU. Every screw I turned, every driver I installed, felt like carving my own path. It powered my freelance graphic design work, small clients at first, but growing. I was proud, you know? Not just of the machine, but of me. Then Saturday hit. I walked into Mom and Dad's dining room, the same oak table where I'd eaten mac and cheese as a kid. The air was thick with roast chicken and tension. Tinsley was scrolling her phone, showing off her new designer bag. Dad, Vernon, was nodding like she'd cured cancer. I sat, clutching my water glass, already bracing for their usual jabs. "Still tinkering with your little hobby, Kayla?" Mom asked, her smile sharp. I forced a nod, my stomach twisting. I didn't know the bomb was coming. Halfway through dessert, Dad cleared his throat. "We sold your computer, Kayla," he said, casual as if he'd sold an old couch. My fork froze midair. "What?" I croaked. Mom chimed in. "Tinsley needed funds for her brand. It's an investment." Tinsley didn't even look up, just kept swiping. My computer, my lifeline, was gone, pawned for her photoshoot budget. I felt my chest cave like someone had yanked the air out of me. "You didn't ask," I said, voice shaking. Dad shrugged. "It's just a machine." I stood, my chair scraping the floor. "It was mine," I said, louder than I meant. Their faces hardened, Mom's lips pursed, Dad's eyes narrowed. Tinsley finally glanced up, rolling her eyes. "Don't be dramatic," she said. I wanted to scream, to flip the table, but my legs were jelly. I just stared, their silence louder than any words. That's when I knew, this wasn't just about the computer. It was about me, always invisible, always less. I grabbed my jacket, my hands trembling, and walked out. The night air hit my face, and with every step, something shifted. I wasn't going back. That walk home from Mom and Dad's house had me spiraling, my sneakers scuffing the pavement as I replayed every moment I'd been sidelined. Growing up, I was never the star, always the shadow. I'm Kayla, the kid who'd rather debug code than cheer at Tinsley's pageants, and my family never let me forget it. Flashbacks hit hard. Me at 15, winning a regional coding competition, my trophy shoved on a dusty shelf while Tinsley's third-place ribbon from a dance recital got framed in the living room. I'd come home buzzing, clutching that cheap plastic award, only to hear Dad say, "That's nice, Kayla, but Tinsley's got a real audience." Mom would nod, her eyes glued to Tinsley's latest performance video. I'd slink to my room, swallowing the sting. By 18, I was freelancing, basic logo designs, small websites, nothing huge but mine. I'd show Mom a site I built for a local bakery, proud of the clean lines and smooth navigation. She'd glance over, half listening, then pivot to Tinsley's new headshots. "These could get her an agent," she'd say, like my work was just noise. Dad was worse. Once I overheard him on the phone bragging about Tinsley's bright future while calling my coding a phase. I stood frozen in the hallway, my laptop heavy in my arms, feeling like I was screaming into a void. The worst was my 20th birthday. I'd saved for months to buy my first high-end monitor, crisp, perfect for design work. I set it up in the dining room to show them, my hands shaky with hope. Tinsley walked in, announced she'd hit 10,000 followers, and the room erupted. Mom hugged her. Dad promised a celebratory dinner. My monitor sat ignored. its screen reflecting their laughter. I packed it up, my throat tight, and told myself it didn't matter. But it did. Every slight, every dismissal, built this quiet rage I didn't even know I had. Tinsley wasn't cruel, not exactly. She'd toss me a pitying smile, like I was a stray she felt bad for. Once, she said, "Kayla, you're so dedicated," her tone dripping with condescension, like my hustle was cute but pointless. I'd grit my teeth, forcing a laugh, while inside I wanted to shake her and scream, "I'm not invisible." But I didn't. I'd go back to my room, crank my music, and lose myself in code, where I could build something real, something they couldn't touch. Looking back, those moments weren't just slights, they were a pattern. My parents saw Tinsley as the future, all sparkle and potential, while I was the practical one, the afterthought. They'd praise her for a filtered selfie, but never noticed the nights I spent learning Python or the clients I landed through sheer grit. By the time they sold my computer, it wasn't just betrayal, it was the final straw in a lifetime of being erased. As I trudged home that night, my breath fogging in the cold, I realized I'd been fighting for their approval my whole life. But why? My hands clenched in my pockets. I didn't need their spotlight. I'd build my own. The night air still clung to me as I unlocked my apartment door, my mind churning from that dinner. I flicked on the lamp, its warm glow hitting the empty desk where my computer used to sit. That machine wasn't just tech, it was my rebellion, my proof I could build something from nothing. Let me take you back to when I made it happen. 3 years ago I was 20, juggling 2 part-time jobs, barista by day, data entry by night. Every paycheck, I'd squirrel away a chunk, eyeing components online like a kid in a candy store. I'd stay up until 3 a.m., researching motherboards, GPUs, cooling systems, my eyes burning but my heart racing. This wasn't a hobby, it was my way out. The aha moment hit one rainy afternoon in a cramped coffee shop. I was sketching a budget build on a napkin, frustrated because the parts I wanted were always just out of reach. Then I stumbled on a forum post about refurbished processors. Same power, half the price. My hands shook as I scribbled a new plan. I could do this. Over the next year I became a scavenger. I'd bike to electronics stores for clearance deals, haggle at flea markets, even trade old textbooks for a used kit. My room turned into a tech jungle, boxes of cables, stacks of RAM, tools scattered like confetti. Tinsley once poked her head in, wrinkled her nose, and said, "It's like a robot graveyard." I just smirked and kept soldering. The struggle was real. Some nights, I'd skip dinner to afford a better SSD. My hands would cramp from tweaking tiny screws, and once, I fried a power supply, losing $80 in a week's progress. I cried that night, curled up on my bed, thinking I'd never pull it off. But then I'd picture my parents' faces, their shrugs when I'd talk about my dreams, and I'd get back to it. The final build took a weekend. 48 hours of no sleep, Red Bull, and pure focus. When I powered it on, the fans hummed, the screen lit up, and I laughed out loud. I'd done it. My freelance gigs exploded after that. Logos, websites, even an app for a local startup. Clients loved my work, and I was banking enough to dream of moving out. I kept it quiet, though. My family didn't get it, didn't care. I'd work in my room, door locked, while Tinsley's laughter echoed from downstairs. Once, Mom saw me tweaking the rig and said, "Why bother? You could get a real job." I just nodded, my jaw tight, but inside, I was screaming, "This is real." That computer was my secret triumph, proof I didn't need their validation. It was mine, until they took it. Now, standing in my empty apartment, I felt that old fire flicker. They could sell my machine, but they couldn't sell my grit. I grabbed my laptop, an old backup I'd barely used, and started checking emails. I had a big freelance pitch tomorrow. If I nailed it, everything could change. My apartment felt too quiet after that night, the ghost of my computer still haunting the desk. I barely slept, my mind stuck on my parents' betrayal and the big freelance pitch looming. By morning, I was a mess. Dark circles, cold coffee, and a knot in my stomach. Today was make or break. A potential contract with a small marketing firm. My first shot at steady work. If I nailed it, I could afford to move out for good. But tonight, I had to face the annual family dinner at Mom and Dad's. The timing couldn't be worse. I stood in front of my closet, tugging at my hair, picking out a plain sweater and jeans. Nothing flashy. I didn't want to give Tinsley ammo to mock me. I spent the day prepping for the pitch, hunched over my clunky backup laptop. The screen flickered, a constant reminder of what I'd lost. My portfolio was solid, clean designs, happy clients, but my hands shook as I rehearsed. This firm could change everything. Real money, real stability. I practiced my spiel in the mirror, forcing a smile. Hi, I'm Kayla Preston, and I specialize in... My voice cracked. I stopped, gripping the sink, picturing Mom's pursed lips and Dad's shrugs. What if I bombed this? What if they were right about me? By late afternoon I was pacing, checking my phone. No apology texts from my parents, just a group chat reminder about dinner. 6 p.m. sharp, don't be late, Mom wrote, with a heart emoji like nothing had happened. I scoffed, tossing my phone on the couch. I didn't want to go. Last week's fight, the way they dismissed my computer, my work, me, still burned. But skipping wasn't an option. They'd spin it as proof I was difficult, and I wasn't ready to hand them that win. Plus, some dumb part of me hoped they'd at least acknowledge what they... I grabbed my keys, my stomach churning as I headed out. The drive to their house was a blur. Suburban streets, kids on bikes, the kind of normalcy that felt foreign now. I parked, staring at their front door, its cheery wreath mocking me. My fingers tightened on the steering wheel. I could still turn back, but no, I'd face them, get through it, and focus on tomorrow's pitch. I stepped out, the evening air cool against my flushed cheeks, and walked up the path. The doorbell chimed, and I braced myself, my heart thudding like a drum. Tinsley's laughter spilled through the window, and I caught a glimpse of Mom setting the table, her smile bright for everyone but me. I straightened my sweater, took a breath, and stepped inside. Whatever they threw at me tonight, I'd handle it. I had to. The door clicked shut behind me, and the warmth of Mom and Dad's house hit like a wall. Roast beef, candle wax, and that faint lavender from Mom's diffuser. I stood in the foyer, my sneakers squeaking on the hardwood, already feeling like an intruder. Tinsley's voice carried from the dining room, all bubbly as she recounted some influencer event. I forced my feet forward, clutching my phone like a lifeline, and stepped into the lion's den. The table was set with Mom's good china, the kind she only used for special occasions. Everyone was there. Mom, Dad, Tinsley, and even Uncle Lyle, who always smelled like cigars. Their chatter paused as I entered, eyes flicking to me, then away. Kayla, you made it, Mom said, her smile tight as she smoothed her apron. Sit, we're about to start. No mention of last week, no apology for selling my computer. I slid into the chair farthest from Tinsley, my jaw clenched. Dad was carving the roast, his knife scraping the platter, and he barely glanced up. Hope you're hungry, he muttered, like that was enough to erase everything. Tinsley, in a glittery top, leaned toward Lyle, showing him her phone. This brand sent me free earrings, she bragged, her voice piercing. I gripped my napkin, my knuckles whitening. The meal started and the questions came, sharp, predictable. So, Kayla, still messing with those computers? Lyle asked, his tone half curious, half mocking. I swallowed a bite of potato, my throat dry. Yeah, freelancing, I said, keeping it short. Mom raised an eyebrow. Freelancing, isn't that unstable? Her fork hovered, her eyes scanning me like I was a puzzle she didn't want to solve. I forced a shrug, my fingers twisting the napkin under the table. It's going fine, I lied, the weight of tomorrow's pitch pressing on my chest. Tinsley chimed in, of course. Kayla's always been so independent, she said, her smile syrupy, her eyes glinting. The word landed like a slap, code for weird, lesser. Dad chuckled, nodding like she'd dropped wisdom. Tinsley's got a point, her brand's really taking off. Got a collab with a makeup line next week. He beamed at her, and Mom reached over to squeeze Tinsley's hand. I stared at my plate, my fork scraping the china, the sound louder in my head than it should have been. They didn't ask about my work, my clients, my life, just the same old digs wrapped in polite smiles. I tried to stay calm, sipping water, but every comment stung deeper. You should try something more traditional, Mom said later, passing the rolls, like Tinsley's doing. She's building something real. My chest tightened, my breath shallow. Real? I wanted to scream about the websites I'd built, the clients I'd landed, the computer they'd sold. But I didn't. I just nodded, my lips pressed tight, my nails digging into my palms. The room felt smaller, their voices louder, and I knew this was just the start. Dinner wasn't over, and neither was their judgment. The dining room air grew heavier as dessert plates were cleared, Mom's apple pie sitting half-eaten on the table. My hands were clammy, still stinging from the earlier jabs, but I kept my face neutral, picking at a napkin shred under the table. Tinsley was mid-story about her latest photo shoot, her voice like a radio I couldn't turn off. Dad leaned back, grinning, while Mom nodded along, her earrings catching the chandelier light. Uncle Lyle was checking his phone, barely listening. I thought I'd make it through the night, just nod, eat, leave. Then Dad cleared his throat, loud, deliberate, and the room stilled. "Kayla," he said, folding his hands like he was about to give a sermon, "we need to talk about your situation." My stomach dropped. Mom's smile vanished, replaced by that pinched look she got when she was concerned. Tinsley glanced up, her lips twitching like she knew something I didn't. I straightened, my chair creaking, and forced my voice steady. "What situation?" I asked, though I could feel the ground shifting. Mom jumped in, her tone syrupy but sharp. "We've been thinking about the family, about priorities." She paused, glancing at Dad, who nodded. "We sold your computer because Tinsley's career is at a critical point. She needs the support right now." My breath caught, my fingers freezing on the napkin. They were doubling down, not apologizing. I opened my mouth, but Dad raised a hand. "Hear us out," he said, his voice firm. "You're living in this fantasy, tinkering away, but it's not sustainable. We're cutting you off. No more help, no more crashing at home. It's time you grew up." The words hit like a slap, each one sinking deeper. Cut off. My computer, my lifeline, gone for Tinsley's brand. My place in the family, erased. I stared at Dad, his eyes cold, then at Mom, who wouldn't meet my gaze. Tinsley leaned back, sipping her water, her silence louder than any smirk. Lyle shifted uncomfortably, muttering something about coffee. The room spun, my pulse hammering in my ears. "You sold my work," I said, my voice low, shaking. 3 years of my life, and you didn't even ask." Mom sighed, like I was being dramatic. "Kayla, it's just a computer. Tinsley's building something bigger." Tinsley nodded, all fake sympathy. "You'll get another one, Kay," she said, her voice dripping with pity. I wanted to scream, to throw my glass, but my body wouldn't move. My hands trembled, my nails digging into my thighs. They weren't just dismissing my work, they were dismissing me. I'd always been the spare, but this was them saying I didn't matter at all. I pushed my chair back, the scrape echoing. "You don't get it," I said, my voice cracking. "That was my career, my future." Dad's jaw tightened. "Don't make a scene," he warned. But I was done. I stood, my legs shaky, and grabbed my coat from the chair. Their faces blurred, Mom's frown, Tinsley's smugness, Dad's indifference. I walked out, the door slamming behind me, their silence sealing the betrayal. The cold night air hit my face as I stumbled out of Mom and Dad's house, like my breath fogging in sharp bursts. My hands shook as I fumbled for my phone, the sting of their words. Cut off, just a computer, looping in my head. I leaned against my car, the metal icy under my palms, trying to steady myself. The street was quiet, porch lights glowing in the distance, but inside me, everything was chaos. I wanted to scream, to go back and make them see what they'd done, but my legs felt like lead. Then my phone buzzed, the screen lighting up with an unknown number. I almost ignored it, figuring it was spam, but something made me swipe. "Kayla Preston?" a crisp voice asked. My heart skipped. "This is Marla Vance from Horizon Marketing." My pitch, the one I'd prepped for tomorrow. I straightened, wiping my eyes, my voice hoarse. Yeah, that's me." Marla didn't pause. "We reviewed your portfolio early. It's impressive. We're offering you the contract, lead designer for our rebrand. Can you start Monday?" My jaw dropped, my grip tightening on the phone. The contract was huge. 6 months, steady pay, the kind of gig that could set me up for years. "Yes," I blurted. "I'm in." She chuckled. "Great. I'll email details. Oh, and we saw your app mock-up on Dribbble, got us talking." I mumbled a thanks, hung up, and stood frozen, the world tilting. I glanced back at the house, its warm glow mocking me. They'd just disowned me, sold my lifeline, and here was proof I wasn't a failure. My chest tightened, not with joy but with a raw, burning resolve. I had to go back in, not to beg but to show them. I pushed off the car, my sneakers crunching gravel, and marched to the door. My hand hesitated on the knob, my pulse hammering, but I shoved it open. The dining room was unchanged. Mom clearing plates, Dad sipping coffee, Tinsley scrolling her phone, Lyle yawning. They looked up, startled, and I didn't wait for an invitation. "I just got a call," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Horizon Marketing hired me, lead designer, big contract." I let the words hang, watching their faces. Mom's fork clattered. Dad's mug froze mid-sip. Tinsley's eyes narrowed, her phone lowering. "That's nice," Mom said, but her voice was thin, like she didn't believe it. Dad coughed, shifting in his seat. "Well, that's something," he muttered, avoiding my gaze. Tinsley scoffed softly, muttering, "Probably exaggerating." I stepped closer, my hands unclenching, my voice sharp. "It's real. More real than a photoshoot budget." Their silence was deafening, their eyes darting like they'd been caught. I didn't need their applause, I needed them to know I wasn't invisible. My phone buzzed again, Marla's email confirming the deal. I held it up, the screen glowing. "This is my future," I said, my voice firm. "Not your call to sell." I turned, my coat swinging, and walked out. Their stunned faces burned into my mind. The door slammed behind me as I stepped back into the night, my heart pounding but lighter, like I'd shed a weight I'd carried too long. The echo of their stunned silence, Mom's dropped fork, Dad's frozen stare, Tinsley's petty scoff, played in my head as I crossed the lawn. My phone was still warm in my hand. Marla's email a quiet anchor. I'd done it. I'd walked back into that viper pit and laid my truth bare. I wasn't the failure they'd painted me as, but their faces caught between shock and denial told me they weren't ready to hear it. Not really. I slowed by my car, my breath steadying, and let the moment sink in. Inside I heard muffled voices, Mom's sharp whisper, Dad's low grumble. The dining room window glowed, and I caught a glimpse of Tinsley tossing her hair, gesturing wildly. They were scrambling, probably picking apart my announcement, spinning it to fit their narrative. I leaned against my car, the metal cold through my sweater, and waited. Sure enough, the door creaked open, and Mom hurried out, her cardigan clutched tight against the chill. "Kayla, wait," she called, her voice softer now, almost pleading. I turned, arms crossed, my jaw set. "Sweetie, we didn't mean to upset you," she said, stopping a few feet away, her hands twisting together. "We're proud of you, really. This job sounds wonderful." Her eyes darted like she was searching for the right script. I didn't budge. "You sold my computer," I said, my voice flat. "You cut me off. That's not pride." Her lips parted, then closed, her face flushing. Dad appeared in the doorway, hovering but not stepping out. "Let's not make this a thing," he called, his tone gruff. "Come back inside, talk it out." I laughed, sharp and bitter, surprising even myself. "Talk? You didn't talk when you pawned my work for Tinsley's bags." Mom flinched, her hands dropping. "We thought we were helping the family," she said, but it sounded hollow, rehearsed. I shook my head, stepping closer, my voice low but steady. "You helped yourselves. You chose her over me every time. I built something real, and you threw it away. Now I've got this contract. And you're acting like you always believed in me? Save it." Tinsley's silhouette appeared behind Dad, her phone still in hand, eavesdropping. I didn't care. "I'm done begging for your respect," I said, my eyes locked on Mom's. "I don't need it anymore." Her face crumpled, but she didn't argue. Dad shifted, muttering something I didn't catch. I turned, opened my car door and slid inside. The engine roared to life, louder than their weak protests. As I pulled away, their figures shrank in the rear view. Mom standing alone, Dad retreating, Tinsley's shadow fading. My hands gripped the wheel, my chest tight but free. I wasn't running. I was choosing me. The drive back to my apartment was quiet, just the hum of the engine and the occasional streetlight flashing by. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my mind was electric, replaying the way Mom's face fell, how Dad couldn't meet my eyes. I'd finally said it, called out their hypocrisy, and it felt like I'd cracked open a door I'd been pounding on for years. But the high was fading, and by the time I parked, a hollow ache settled in. I needed something real, something warm to wash away the chill of that dinner. I texted my friends Fern and Otis, and within minutes, they invited me to their place for a late-night hangout. Fern's apartment was a cozy mess, string lights, mismatched cushions, and the faint smell of burnt popcorn. I knocked, and Otis swung the door open, his lanky frame filling the doorway. "Yo, Kayla, you look like you just fought a dragon," he said, grinning, his glasses slipping down his nose. Fern peeked from the couch, her short hair dyed a fresh shade of teal. "Get in here and spill," she called, patting the seat next to her. I dropped my coat and sank into the couch, the tension in my shoulders loosening. These two. They were my people, the ones who got me. I told them everything, the dinner, my parents' betrayal, the contract call, and my walkout. My voice cracked when I got to the part about the computer, my hands twisting in my lap. Fern listened, her eyes fierce, while Otis leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "They sold your rig?" he said, incredulous. "That's low, even for them." Fern reached over, squeezing my arm. "You're better than their nonsense, Kay. Always have been." Her words hit soft but deep, like a hug I didn't know I needed. We cracked open some sodas, and the night shifted. Otis pulled out his guitar, strumming a goofy tune about evil parents, making us laugh until my sides hurt. Fern shared her latest thrift store find, a tacky cat mug she swore was cursed, and we passed it around, making up wild stories about its origins. It was simple, silly, but it felt like home. No judgment, no competition, just us. I looked at them, Fern's easy smile, Otis's off-key humming, and realized this was what family could be. Not the cold dining room with Mom's forced smiles or Tinsley's smirks, but this. People who saw me, who cheered my wins and cursed my losses right alongside me. As the night wound down, I leaned back, my soda can cool against my palm. "Thanks for this," I said, my voice quiet. Otis shrugged. "Anytime, Preston. You're stuck with us." Fern nodded, her eyes soft. "You're killing it, Kay. Don't let them dim that." Their words settled into me, filling the cracks left by my family's rejection. I wasn't alone. I had a tribe, and that was more than enough. The next morning, I woke up on Fern's couch, a scratchy blanket tangled around me, the faint smell of coffee pulling me out of sleep. My phone was buzzing on the floor, a string of texts lighting up the screen. "Mom, Kayla, let's talk. We didn't mean it like that." "Dad, come by this weekend. We'll sort this out." Even Tinsley, "You're being dramatic, but I'm sorry, okay?" I stared at the messages, my thumb hovering, a familiar tug in my chest urging me to reply, to smooth things over. But then I remembered their faces at dinner, the dismissal, the betrayal, and I set the phone down, my jaw tight. I wasn't falling back into that trap. I spent the day at my apartment, the backup laptop open, diving into Marla's contract details. The work was intense, mock-ups, timelines, client calls, but it grounded me. Between emails, I kept glancing at my phone. Another text from Mom. "We're family, Kayla. Don't shut us out." My fingers twitched, itching to respond, but I didn't. Instead, I grabbed a notebook and started jotting down rules. My rules. No more dropping everything for their demands. No more justifying my career. No contact unless they respected my boundaries. Writing it felt like carving a line in the sand, one I wouldn't cross. By evening, I was restless, so I called Fern. "They're texting non-stop," I said, pacing my tiny kitchen, the linoleum cool under my socks. "It's like they think an apology fixes everything." Fern snorted through the phone. "They're scared you're actually done with them. Hold your ground." Her words steadied me, like a hand on my shoulder. I nodded, even though she couldn't see. "I'm trying," I said, my voice softer. She told me to come over if it got too heavy, and I hung up feeling stronger. The next day, Mom called. I let it go to voicemail, my heart racing as the phone vibrated on the counter. Her message was all sugar. "Kayla, sweetie, we love you. Let's have dinner. Get just us." I listened twice, my throat tight, then deleted it. Love didn't sell my computer. Love didn't cut me off. I texted back, my fingers steady. "I need space. I'll reach out when I'm ready." Short, firm, done. Dad replied an hour later. "Don't be stubborn." I didn't respond. Tinsley sent a selfie with a pouty caption, "Miss you, sis." I rolled my eyes and blocked her number. It hurt, but it also felt like breathing for the first time. I stuck to my rules over the next week. No calls, no visits. When Mom showed up at my door with a casserole, I didn't answer, watching through the peephole as she left it on the mat. It wasn't cold. I just needed to protect myself. My work with Horizon kept me busy, my days filled with wireframes and client feedback. Each task was a brick in the wall I was building, one that kept my family's chaos out. I wasn't shutting them out forever, but I was choosing me first, and that choice? It felt like power. The weeks after setting my boundaries flew by, my days consumed with Horizon's rebrand project. Mock-ups, revisions, late-night calls with Marla's team. My apartment was a chaos of sticky notes and coffee mugs, but I was thriving. Each deadline met a quiet victory. One afternoon, I sat back, my laptop warm on my thighs, and realized I wasn't just surviving. I was building something bigger than my family's approval. That spark from the night I walked out had grown into a fire, and I wanted to do more with it. I started thinking about how I could use my skills to make a real mark, not just for me, but for others like me. People who'd been overlooked, who'd had to fight for their place. I'd been mentoring a few teens online, kids from a local coding bootcamp for underserved communities. One of them, a shy 16-year-old named Reggie, had sent me a game demo he'd built. Clunky but clever. It hit me. I could help kids like him, give them the tools and confidence I'd scraped together alone. I reached out to the bootcamp's organizer, a no-nonsense woman named Sheila, and pitched a free workshop series. "I'll teach design basics, maybe some app development," I said, my voice steady over the phone. Sheila didn't hesitate. "You're on, Kayla? These kids need someone who gets it." My chest swelled, a mix of nerves and pride. The first workshop was in a community center, all flickering fluorescents and folding chairs. 10 teens showed up, some skeptical, others wide-eyed, Reggie clutching his laptop in the front row. I stood there, my hands sweaty, and talked about my journey, coding in my room, building my computer, losing it to my family's betrayal. "Your work matters," I told them, my voice catching. "Don't let anyone tell you it doesn't." They listened, really listened, and when we dove into wireframing, their energy lit up the room. Reggie stayed late, showing me his updated demo, his grin shy but proud. "You made this feel possible," he said. I nearly teared up. Word spread. And soon I was running workshops monthly, each one packed. I used my Horizon Pay to buy extra laptops for the program, naming it Preston's Pixels, as a quiet middle finger to my family's dismissal. The name wasn't about their legacy. It was mine, reclaimed. Parents started emailing me, thanking me for inspiring their kids. One mom, whose daughter built her first website, hugged me after a session, her eyes wet. "You're changing things," she said. I nodded, my throat tight, feeling the weight of it. My family's texts had slowed to a trickle, their attempts at guilt fading as I stayed firm. I didn't need their validation anymore. I was creating it, one workshop at a time. Standing in that community center, watching Reggie and the others code, I saw my own reflection, not the devalued daughter, but a woman building a legacy that mattered. It wasn't about revenge, it was about rewriting my story, and theirs, on my own terms. The community center was quiet now, the last workshop of the month wrapped, chairs stacked and laptops powered down. I sat alone on the edge of the stage, my legs dangling, a warm ache in my chest. Reggie's latest game demo, a little platformer with a glitchy but charming hero, was still open on my phone, his proud grin from earlier replaying in my mind. I'd spent the past year clawing my way out of my family's shadow, and moments like this made it real. I wasn't just surviving, I was building something meaningful. I tilted my head back, the ceiling tiles blurring as I let myself reflect, really reflect, for the first time in months. I used to think my worth was tied to my parents' approval. Mom's rare smile, Dad's grudging nod. I'd chase it, thinking if I worked harder, built something bigger, they'd see me. But they sold my computer, my heart, and didn't blink. That betrayal broke something, but it also freed me. Standing up to them that night, walking out with my head high, wasn't just defiance, it was clarity. My value didn't live in their dining room, their words, or their choices. It lived in me, in the code I wrote, the kids I taught, the life I was carving out. I thought about Fern and Otis, their laughter filling the gaps my family left, about Horizon, where my designs were shaping a brand, about Preston's Pixels, where kids like Reggie found their spark. These were my wins, not because they proved my family wrong, but because they proved me right. I'd spent so long fighting to be seen, but now, sitting here, I saw myself. My hands, once clenched in anger, were steady, my heart, once heavy, was full. I didn't need to scream for validation anymore, I was living it. My phone buzzed, a text from Sheila, another parent raving about you. "You're a game changer, Kayla." I smiled, my thumb tracing the screen. This was enough. More than enough. I stood, grabbing my bag, the stage creaking under my sneakers. The future wasn't about settling scores, it was about building, growing, being. I stepped outside, the night air cool, the stars sharp above. For the first time I felt at peace. Not because I'd won, but because I knew who I was. Hey, have you ever had to fight to prove your worth, to yourself or someone else? I'm Kayla, and this journey, from my family's betrayal to finding my own strength, taught me that our value isn't in what others think, but in what we build and who we lift up. I'd love to hear your stories. Drop them in the comments. What's a moment you reclaimed your power? If my story resonated, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear. It's okay to define success on their own terms. Let's keep inspiring each other to shine. no matter who tries to dim our light. You've got this.